Someone said that all they are experiencing is pain. They just want to stop experiencing pain. So let's explore this. That pain is pain. But the resistance to pain is suffering. Now, pain, when felt fully, actually isn't painful. What's more painful than the pain itself is the pain of suffering. So there's this initial pain. But the resistance to feeling that pain is actually more painful than the pain itself. This is very confusing for the mind. There's an initial pain. And without the resistance to that pain, it's just experienced as it is. There's no story of being a victim. There's no indulging in this pain. There's no woe is me and why did so-and-so do this to me, and I just want to feel something other than this pain. This is then making a drama out of this pain. The story is so dramatic. It's like a tragedy movie. And that is then when this pain becomes very painful. But the part that's very painful is actually not the pain. The painful part is actually the add-on. It's the resistance to the pain. It's the story about the pain. It's not the pain itself. The pain itself, it's a temporary experience. It comes, it goes. If you burn your hand, you burn your hand. You experience pain. That is inevitable. It's unavoidable. It's part of life. Pain is part of life. This physical pain. Or this emotional pain. You're in a 5-year relationship and your girlfriend or your boyfriend breaks up with you. There's an emotional pain. The pain of loss. But that experience is temporary. It's going to come and go. If it feels like all you're experiencing is the pain, and it feels like it's just dragging on and it's just something you've been experiencing for weeks, months, years, that's not the pain itself. That's actually suffering. You're suffering the pain. But the suffering is optional. There's just pain. Pain is pain. Without the story about pain, the pain comes, the pain goes. It's very temporary. But when it seems like this pain is everywhere you go, it's actually because there's a resistance to feeling the pain fully. And it's that resistance that actually appears as the story. The story is the resistance to the pain. The resistance is appearing as the thoughts. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my life? Why does it have to be like this? How come I can't be like so-and-so? These people have it easier. I have it so bad. It's this self-centered story. I mean, all stories are self-centered, but it's making it all about me. If you burn your hand on the stove, you burn your hand on the stove. It's not all about me. You just learn your lesson. Okay, well, shit, I wasn't paying attention. Burn my hand on the stove. You experience some emotional pain. Your boyfriend or your girlfriend breaks up with you. You experience the emotional pain. It's an experience of loss. And it comes and goes. But it feels like you're bringing it everywhere with you. If it feels like you're extending this pain, it's because you haven't felt it fully and there's resistance to the pain. You haven't felt it fully, and we're usually unaware that we haven't felt it fully because we're living in the story of thoughts, living as the story of thoughts. And it's always this story that continues. It just continues and continues. It's this compulsive story of just creating a story about everything, going back in the story, back in the story. And it's almost like a protective mechanism that there's this resistance to the pain. But the resistance to the pain is what's actually painful. That's the suffering. So continuing the story just continues the suffering. The story is the suffering. So by seeing this as it is, that there's just pain and it's part of life, that if I'm going to say that I shouldn't be experiencing pain ever, I'm going to suffer. If there's a story that, no, that's unfair, to feel pain is unfair, it shouldn't, other people can feel pain, but I shouldn't, that's just another story. I'm going to suffer. And typically what creates this prolonged pain is the story that we have about it. Life's unfair. He did this to me. She did that. It's my fault. Have a look for the blame. Be aware of where there's blame, because this blame continues this story. This blame creates this injustice. It's really this powerlessness. It's this victim state of consciousness, this victimhood, that as long as I'm blaming, could be blaming myself. Well, I'm going to feel like a victim. As long as I'm blaming my wife or my family or a colleague at work or your neighbors, anyone, anything. You could even be blaming God. You can blame the universe. You can blame the weather. You look around, you'll find that everyone's blaming someone for something. And it keeps you in this state of being powerless. So very much it's a way of taking back your power. When you stop blaming, you take back your power. And you actually notice that a lot of your story is about blame. And this blame of injustice, this unfairness, really creates this resentment, this bitterness, and really holds you to the past. Because this pain is really the pain of holding on to the past. You're not hurt by the future. The future hasn't happened. You're always hurt by yesterday's wounds. So if you start looking at this blame and seeing the story, this blame in a way is creating more pain. And the story is chaining you to the past. And then you live in this past, in this painful past. That's why people say, I just don't even want to think about that. Brings up those memories. I just don't want to go there right now. Why? It's because you're actually living there in thought. You're living in your head. When people say they're living in their head, they're either living in the past or the future. When you're living in the present moment, you're not stuck in the head. So by becoming aware of that narrative, that blaming narrative, that victimhood, stop blaming. Because if you stop blaming, how are you going to go tell a story? I burned my hand on the oven. Without blame, how do I tell a story about that? It's just experienced. It's allowed. Oh, shoot, I burned my hand on the oven. It's accepted. And there's no resistance. With that allowance of, shoot, burn my hand, then it's just allowing it to be. There's allowing of pain. There's the acceptance. Sure, it's uncomfortable. Sure, it's painful, but there's the allowance of pain. There's the acceptance of that pain. And therefore, there's no suffering the pain. The suffering is optional. That's an add-on. The suffering is always a story about what is. What is there's the swelling of the hand, tingling in the hand. A minor burn to the hand. That's just what is. Now, if I go and tell a story about how, well, it was my kid's fault because they distracted me, and now, little Joey made me burn my hand, and it's all your fault, and why isn't my wife helping me cook? It's just one guy trying to do all the cooking here for the family, and it's always my fault, and I'm always cooking, and how come no one's helping? This is suffering. This is suffering. Oh, it's my hand. How am I going to work? Oh my God. I need my hand. I'm a surgeon. I need this hand. How am I going to show up to work this week? How am I going to make money? If I'm not there, then the whole, office, the hospital is going to fall apart. They really need me. This is suffering. This is the storytelling. Mine is the greatest storyteller. Right? So by just noticing that narrative, that story, and you just remain aware, then there's just the direct experience of what is without that story. And without the story, there's no suffering. The suffering is the resistance to what is. In total allowance of what is, total acceptance, it's as if the experience just comes and goes. There's no holding on to it. We suffer these experiences when we hold on to them. We're holding on to the past, holding on to this. It's that person's fault. They are responsible for my mother passing away. Why can't our society just have a cure for this disease that my mother passed away from? And now I'm blaming society. And now I'm bitter about our health care. And this goes on because then it perpetuates itself into this anger. And anger is really pain directed outward. It's pain that hasn't been felt. That's what anger really is. If you haven't felt that pain fully, then there's this anger. This anger is directed to your kids, to your husband, to your wife, directed to society, directed towards God, directed towards the universe, anything. But it's really this resistance to feeling this pain. This anger is really a protective mechanism. We get angry because we just don't want to feel this hurt. I'd rather feel angry than this pain. It kind of comes down to that. But it's not a solution because the anger is actually creating more pain. The anger is creating more pain. It's very destructive. Someone who's very angry, they'll destroy like their whole family. No one wants to be around someone that's angry. This anger is really an immaturity. It's this immaturity of not being able to feel our emotions fully. So it's almost seen when this is happening, like this person's very childish. They're throwing a tantrum, getting angry at everyone just because they're hurt. They're hurt inside. So this is where compassion, it's not to point the finger, that would be another blame, and say, well, this person's immature. Just, figure your shit out, would you? Don't come around here with your immaturity. It's not that. It's to see that there's some hurt. There's pain in them that they're not experiencing fully, and that's why they're angry. And they're just taking it out. It's not to say you become their punching bag. No, you create these healthy boundaries when needed. But by seeing through what that anger, that expression of that anger really is, going beyond that anger. The anger is always superficial, and seeing beyond that anger and seeing it's just this person's just they're hurting right now. They're hurting and they don't even know they're hurting. They don't even know they're hurting. They're feeling like it's safer to be angry than it is to feel hurt. So they don't want to feel that pain. So they're just angry. So by seeing through it, there's more compassion. There's more understanding. You're seeing past the anger into the pain. There's more understanding. You can empathize. There's more understanding. You can really understand them, but not understand with the mind. The mind is not what understands. It's the heart that understands. So you're understanding them on a heart-to-heart level, that you can really feel their pain. You feel that frustration. And then it's, I get why you're angry at society. I get why you're angry at every little thing. Because this pain is easily triggered. This is why when people get very angry, these kind of sensitive topics, you feel like you have to kind of walk around on, like, what's the saying? Walk on eggshells around someone. It seems like every little thing is so, they're so sensitive. There's a lot of pain. If you, say the wrong thing, then they get angry and they lash out. It's because you're coming close to a very sensitive subject. It might be, whatever it is. For some people, it's politics, and there's something like that. And the government might be, talk about Cancer Foundation or something like that. That's a sensitive topic because they lost a loved one to cancer. Anything. You just see this. Right? You see, even with a lot of these, like, to give you some examples, it's endless, but these like bumper stickers. I don't know if they're even bumper stickers. These stickers that people put on their cars. Usually, not usually, but they're very common when someone loses someone to cancer. There's a lot of these stickers that say, fuck you, cancer. It's this anger. But this anger, why is there the anger? Well, there's the pain. There's the pain of loss. That they lost someone that they loved. And they're angry. Right? So, do they have the right to be angry? Of course. I mean, it's just another emotion. Do they have the right to feel that pain? Yeah. That too. And you see that it's only by feeling that pain fully that actually you distinguish that anger. Use that word distinguish, or I think I said the wrong word there. To extinguish the anger, because it's very much like a fire. It's very much a fire, and it's kind of like when you're angry and you're everywhere you go, it's like you're setting it on fire. Right? And it's all because you just haven't really felt your emotions. And symbolically, these emotions are more symbolized as water. So by feeling these emotions, you're able to extinguish this fire. The fire projecting it outwards, getting angry, flamethrower at your kids, flamethrower at your husband, flamethrower at your wife, flamethrower at your boss, flamethrower at the healthcare system, the government. It's really this projecting outward. So I said it's this pain that's projected outward. That's what anger is. And it's very much this yang energy going outward. Whereas this yin energy is, let me just hold up. Instead of blaming, instead of burning your house just because I'm feeling some pain, instead of lighting everything on fire, then it's more about, let's just feel what's here. Let's just be more soft and gentle. Let me just go within. Let's just see what's here. Let's feel this care, this warmth, this kindness, this self-compassion. Let me feel this pain. It's okay to feel this pain, because anger is always coming from this place. It's not okay. That something's hurting and it's not okay to feel like this. And because then I'm mad, I'm angry. Whereas then it's this shift going inward, feeling this, being more gentle to oneself, feeling these emotions. And you feel very soft, and you feel this flow of emotions. And that's where it's usually symbolized as water. It's more of this yielding to the emotion, a surrendering to the emotion. You're not meeting this emotion with resistance. What's this pain? I don't want to feel this. I shouldn't be feeling this. Oh my goodness. And then you're running from it. And so that's the resistance to the pain. And that's what creates more suffering. Whereas if we surrender to this pain, feel it fully, it's not about doing. I mentioned this in these videos. And it's just the trick of language. When I say feel your emotions, that implies that you're doing something, but that's not what I'm saying. Feeling your emotions is actually effortless. To feel your emotions, it's actually a non-doing. You always have to run from your emotions. That's a doing. You always have to hide from your emotions. That's a doing. You always have to push away your emotions. That's a doing. It's the fact that you're not doing any of that anymore. And that's what makes it so yin. You're going within. You're going within. You're not going outward anymore. Going outward is a doing. Going inward is actually a non-doing. See, naturally, you're going outward, but where did you come from? Right? So it's returning to the source, but returning to the source needs no effort. That's the paradox that the mind can't understand. To return to the source, it's effortless. So then you start feeling these emotions, feeling what's there. And that's this sort of resolution, this healing of the pain. And you find that the more you feel this pain, as you're feeling the pain, the anger is decreasing. You feel the pain fully, and there's just no more anger. You go, I'm not taking my anger out on everyone. Meaning I'm not taking my pain out on everyone. You start noticing it's very different. You perceive as your life starts changing. People just start responding to you differently. It looks brighter. It doesn't look so dark and gloomy, right? There's no blaming story, this resentment, this sourness, this bitterness. You're not bringing that everywhere. It's this emotional maturity of just feeling my emotions. And that's something that we're not taught. We're not taught that in school or anything. We're taught about everything else, but some of these things, it's always about these emotions that give us the biggest challenges in life, are just feeling these emotions, right? So by feeling it fully, then this anger decreases. And by feeling it fully, there's total allowance. See, to feel it fully, you're allowing, you're accepting. And allowance and accepting is a non-doing. Resisting would be the opposite of allowing. Rejecting is the opposite of accepting. So now that you're not resisting, now that you're not rejecting, well, then there's just what is. There's just this pain, and it's felt fully, effortlessly. And when it's effortlessly felt fully, then there's no suffering that pain. So you're no longer suffering the pain. And you find that actually just feeling this pain fully is actually what people call healing the past. You're not actually healing the past. You're just healing the pain that's always been here. There's just stories about the pain, and these stories are always about the past, but you can't heal the past. But that's just how we speak about it. You're just healing the pain, and you heal the pain by feeling the pain. It's that simple. So by feeling the pain, you heal the pain. You heal the pain, then you heal the past. Healing the past then frees you from the past. So you're no longer chained to the past in the same way that you were. So you notice that there's, after feeling that pain fully, there's actually very little story, if any, about the past like that. Oh, wow. It's like it frees up this whole new space. I'm free from the past. I'm not indulging in that story. I don't have that victim story where I'm blaming and that I'm holding on to something. So it's very liberating. It's very liberating. It's the starting, this maturity, this emotional maturity is really the starting of this, what I sometimes call like emotional freedom. And this emotional freedom is just the freedom to feel any emotion. That you're not afraid of feeling emotions. When you're afraid of feeling emotions, there's always this fear. So this emotional freedom is really the freedom from the fear of emotions. That we're afraid of, I'll feel these emotions, but those emotions, no, I just don't go there. It's kind of like that. So that's the remedy. The remedy of that pain is, one, trying to give you, no, this is a long video, just to give you that kind of clarity by illuminating that the pain is part of life and it's unavoidable. Pain is pain, but your stories about the pain is actually suffering. And the story is all the time is going to be more painful than the pain itself. So always the story is going to be more painful than the pain itself. So it shows you that's how we create this prolonged pain. Because actually when you experience the pain fully, like how I showed you, like the steps, by just simply allowing the pain to be here, accepting, right? It's a non-doing, right? You stop running, you stop resisting, you stop hiding. Okay. Now that you've stopped all of that, well, then there's just feeling the pain fully, which is effortless, right? It's the non-doing. And then you kind of, after feeling it fully, you go, it was like, that was it. It was so quick, right? It was just, yeah, sure, it was intense, but it came and it went. It's almost like it feels kind of foolish. You go, like, why? What was I doing for the last 3 years resisting that? That wasn't a big deal, right? And that's kind of, you see it. What do they say? Hindsight is 20/20 or something like that, right? You're looking back at it. That's when it's clear. You, oh my goodness, right? And then you start developing what you could say is this emotional maturity, right? It's this feeling of, okay, well, now that I got that out of the way, well, I guess I can feel a little bit more, right? And then you apply the same 3-step system, the non-doing 3-step system. Stop running, stop hiding, stop resisting. There's your 3-step system to feeling any emotion fully, right? So then you just cross it off your list. Okay, stop running, stop hiding, and stop resisting. And bam, you are effortlessly feeling any emotion fully. So you develop this emotional maturity. It feels like this. Again, this is another story, but it feels like you're developing this emotional maturity. So then you're able to feel more emotions the same way. This emotional maturity is then developing into what you could call emotional freedom, that you're free to feel any emotion, that you're not resisting any emotions, that there's just the full experience of life, and there's the total acceptance that, yeah, the pain is part of life, loss is part of life, right? So there's this maturity, that there's just this deeper acceptance. That's just the way it is. And I'm not about to live my life arguing about, that's just the fact of life. That's just how it is. I'm not going to be, shaking my head all the time. Why is it like this? Trying to figure out why it's like this. No, it's just like this. That's just the way it is. No story needed. And like that, there's this emotional freedom. And it's the freedom to live without fearing any of these emotions. Right? So hopefully that helps. And I'll see you in the next one.